Your boy Rudy, coming at you guys with another podcast. This is my second podcast. My name is Rudy. This is the Rudy Rambles podcast, and basically what this podcast is, it's just things that I find interesting in the mountain bike world. I'm going to be talking about those kind of things, things that are going on in my life, some current events. I'll do my best to upload a new podcast every Monday and possibly on Fridays. We'll see how the scheduling goes. This is all new to me, but it seems like these go pretty good. I'd like to give my first shout out to my one and only sponsor. That is my wife. I call her Princess Honey Bunny. Thank you so much, because without you, none of this would be possible. So thank you for your love and your support and your ideas. Really appreciate that. The first topic of today that I'd like to get into is I got a new bike, and I really couldn't be more excited to tell you guys about it, because I've already gotten together. I've already gotten a couple of rides on it, and just super stoked about it. But before that, I want to give a special thanks and shout out to Trailhead Mountain Bike Shop. They're in New Braunfels, and if you guys haven't had a chance to get out there to see what Fern and his wife Yessie's got going on, man, they got really cool products. They carry some really colorful components, and you should go check out their shop. But they're a new mountain bike shop, and they kind of got into it. I don't know if you want to say at a bad time or not, but they haven't been able to get bicycles in. But here recently, they did get a couple of bike frames in. They're dirt jumper frames. They are an Evil dealership. An Evil dealer. So Evil Bikes, that is, an Evil bike dealer. So they're going to be carrying a lot of their products and their bikes. And starting with the first three bikes that they got in, they're all medium-sized frames. They are the Evil Faction 2. It's a steel hardtail frame / dirt jumper. Fits 26-inch wheels. If you're into dirt jumping like me, then you're going to really enjoy. Go and pick yourself one of these up. I've actually had a couple of my friends, since I posted pictures, ask me, how much should I get it? What do I like about it? Blah, blah, blah. I like it a lot so far. So the biggest reason that I wanted to give Trailhead Mountain Bike a shout out is because not only did I go there and, they're one of the first places I go to check out mountain bike stuff, or I'll simply just go out and hang out with Fern and talk to him and whoever else comes in the shop, because that's, sometimes it's anything that I want to do except hang out at a bike shop. And so I go there a lot. So whenever I got this frame, I brought my dirt jumper with me, because I needed to get there and make sure that everything that I needed, Fern had, which means, switching out all the components. Because my idea was, take my current dirt jumper there, buy the frame, and swap out everything that I had on there. That way it just becomes me paying for the frame rather than trying to build a new dirt jumper from the ground up, because for one, components are kind of hard to get a hold of, and two, it just the sheer expense. Now, what drew me to getting a new dirt jumper is because the one that I currently have, the frame on it is a size large, and I put a shorter stem on there, and I should have been with a medium to begin with, but as we all know, bike frames, bike components, like everything's really hard to get a hold of. Well, somebody was selling that one basically brand new with a bunch of other components, some handlebars and some new tires and other things that he didn't use, for the same price that I would have bought the bike new. So that's why I ended up having the Commensal Absolute to begin with, but it's a large frame. And I thought I was fine with it, especially once I put the shorter stem and the higher handlebars, like everything seemed fine, okay? Until somebody showed up at the pump track with a medium built frame, and it was like, oh man, it felt so much better. It felt so much more livelier in the jumps, the pumps, the frame shorter, just all around the bike just felt really like it felt better fit. Okay. And if any of you out there have ridden a bike that is either too small or too large, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's just got that kind of feel to it, especially after you've gone to a smaller bike or to a bigger bike, one that fits. So that's what happened to me. Knowing that I was going to get a smaller frame now, I started searching the internet and trying to find out what is in stock. If I even tried putting my current dirt jumper as a whole up for sale until I started digging into maybe just getting the frame and using the bones off of my common saw and just putting it together in a smaller frame, a medium frame. And that's what ultimately what I decided to do. But as everything else goes, like a lot of that stuff is just out of stock, or you're going to have to wait like several months for, which is fine if you're into that. But I'm such a now person. Like I need it now. I want it now. Let's get it done. And so whenever Fern at Trailhead Mountain Bike Shop ended up getting these Evil frames in, these Evil Faction 2 frames in, I was like, oh man, what do I got to do to get myself into one of those? I instantly took my bike off of the internet for sale and decided that that's what I was going to do. I was going to buy one of these frames and get everything fitted. So I took my mountain bike, I took my dirt jumper, the Commissar Absolute, took it to Fern. He measured out some things. For example, the seat post wasn't going to switch over, and the bottom bracket was different. So the bottom bracket on the Commissar Absolute was a threaded bottom bracket, which is great. But the one on the Faction, the steel frame, is mid press fit. Not a big deal. The bottom bracket was only $27. They didn't happen to have it there. Luckily, down the road at Gnarly Bikes, they're he's more geared towards BMX bikes and things like that. He had it in stock. It was $27. Bought it. Took it out to Fern. Fern said, "What do you want to do? You want to put this thing together? You gonna put this thing together right now?" I said, "Well, shoot, man. If you loan me one of those stalls over there, I'll hook this bike up and start switching everything over." And he said, "All right, let's do it," because that's the kind of guy that Fern is too. Excuse me, taking a drink. Excuse me. Okay, so he's like, "Yeah, let's get it done. Let's start on it," And he had bike he was working on the other side, so we basically just kept each other company. I had a couple of questions here and there, and I just started. I hooked the Common Style Absolute, and just started tearing it apart. Just started taking everything I needed off of it, which basically breaking it down is just the handlebar stem, the fork. Of course, the tires are the wheels and the tires, wheels, rims, and tires, the crank, and the seat, not the seat post, but the seat and the brakes. And that's pretty much it. Everything else stayed with the Commissar Absolute. So I have that frame up for sale. I'm selling it as the frame with, of course, the headset, because the new Evil Faction comes with its own headset, the seat post clamp, the bottom bracket, and the chain. I was thinking that I would take the chain off. It's a gold chain. That I would take the chain off, but ultimately I just decided to buy one from Fern since he had him, the Half-Link Black. Looks really good on this bike because it's a darker color. Anyways, it's not like, maybe it's kind of like raw, but it has some kind of a like thin coat on it. I don't think it's quite raw, but it looks like it. Anyways, so got everything swapped over except for we ran into a little issue with the brake. The brake is it's a hydraulic brake, and so I had to cut it to get it transferred over, because on the Common Style Absolute, it actually has it's internally routed through the top tube of the frame, and on the Faction it's not, which is kind of nice because that made getting everything switched over a lot easier. But we got everything switched over. It turned out to be about 6 o'clock. Fern usually closes doors about 6, maybe a little after. And I knew that they had a bike ride planned later that night anyway. So I went ahead and went home, woke up the next day, got that brake hose bled, and everything works. And I was super excited to get riding. And then, but I knew that it was going to be inclement weather, which means that all day pretty much on Saturday, it rained. Towards the end of the day, everything kind of cleared up, and decided to go check out McAllister Park with my new dirt jumper. But before I get into that, I want to go back a little bit and tell you guys some of the key features about this Evil Faction 2 frame. It is steel. It's Reynolds 520 steel tubing. Of course, it provides more strength and durability. It's got a tapered head tube. If you're looking for a dirt jumper, I suggest not purchasing a dirt jumper unless it has a tapered head tube, which I'm going to say probably 98% of these newer dirt jumpers are going to come with a tapered head tube. If you don't, I know that there's spacers that you can buy so that you can put a tapered fork on there. That's why you want to have a tapered head tube. Also, it has BMX style horizontal dropouts and a mid bottom bracket. Those were the key features that Evil thought to put in their ad as a key feature. I think that one that they left out was the integrated seat tube into the steel frame. So instead of having like a collar on there, they just kind of put a slot in there and a bolt and kind of made it like a pinch collar that's built right onto the frame. Also, it's got external cable routing, which I think is way better because whenever you go to switch out brakes and things like that, it just makes it easier to hook that thing back up to your bike and not have to route a cable or cut your hose on your hydraulic brakes. So I thought that was cool. The bike feels great. Went out to McAllister Park and everything felt very familiar. The cockpit, of course, were the handlebars that I had been using. Same thing with the stem. Same thing with the fork and the tires. The cranks, like everything just felt really, really familiar, like from the get-go, but smaller, like in a good way, like, right? Because like now, even whatever, like I'm not really good at manualing, like, but I'm starting to get it up there and I'm starting to hold it for a few feet, like even just testing that out on the flat ground, like felt immediately like easier, better. Like I could find that point like way, way better. Right. So super excited about that. Super excited about how the bike felt like right out of the box. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to mention here. I'm going to pull this up because I was looking at, what was I looking at here? Some of the differences between the faction and what the common saw had as far as the numbers go, right? So there's actually some pretty big increasing differences in numbers. So the one thing that I noticed the most, and I think between the head tube angle, so the head tube angle on the common saw is 69, and on the Evil is 69.5, which it's fine. I think that actually delivers a little bit more pop because the first time that I hit a little lippy jump on it, like I felt like it just shot me up way more in the air than with less effort than what the common saw did. Now, it's hard to say that if that comes from, the difference in the size of the frame, or the difference in material of frame, or is it doing with this head angle? Because the head angle now is a little bit more steep than it was from being 69 to 69.5. But take in consideration that all these other numbers too take away from the longer frame, right? So what was I talking about? So the biggest thing was like the wheelbase, right? So the wheelbase on the large was 1082 on the common saw, and the maximum length of the chains or the wheelbase was 1026. Is that right? Am I looking at that? Wheelbase, max wheelbase. 1026 is the minimum. 1042 is the max. But on the and I know that I'm like almost, I use the half link chain, so that wheelbase is considered on how far back the back wheel goes on those slots. And on the on the Evil, I got it like 5 mils, maybe, probably closer to like 3 mils from being like butted right up against the back of the slot. So 1082 to, I'm going to say 1028, 1029, something like that. Like, so there's a big difference in the wheelbase right there alone. So that allows you, whenever you're trying to do manuals, to put your rear end behind the axle or on top of the axle and help you find that axis point whenever you're trying to do a manual. Not to mention the top tube length, right? So the top tube length on the common saw is 622, and where's that top tube? The top virtual top tube length is 590. You know what I mean? So that's quite a bit shorter too. So overall, like, the bike is just smaller and more built for my frame. The biggest thing being, right, so the sizing fits on a medium 5'7" to 6'1". I'm right at 5'8", like on the nose, without shoes on or anything. I'm right at 5'8". And the sizing for the large on the Commensal starts at 5'11" and goes to 6'7". So I can see why I already feel more comfortable, but familiar with the way that the bike feels and is acting already. So I just feel like this is going to give me more confidence whenever I really do start hitting like bigger dirt jumps, and help me progress whenever I'm doing manuals and just tricks in general. So I'm really excited about having this bike and being able to have a bike that fits, because like I said, if you guys have ever ridden a bike that was too small or too large, like you know, whenever you get a bike that fits, that you just feel more comfortable. I think that's pretty much the things that I really wanted to talk about with the new dirt jumper. Saturday, like I said, kind of got, the day, it was okay. It was really like soppy, wet, but the cement or the asphalt had dried at the pump track. So I was able to get a good solid 2 hours of riding in before it got too dark that I couldn't ride anymore. So I really got a good feel for how the bike feels. I got to ride quite a bit on it on Sunday. Now on Saturday. On Sunday, same thing. The weather this weekend just hadn't been that great. So I did meet my friend Eric at the new Parasol pump track and got to ride that for quite a bit too. But the sun era came out and it just kind of made the day for, drawn out, not like the stoke just wasn't there. But anytime I'm on my bike, like, I'm happy, and I got a good sweat in it, and I got a good kind of workout in at the pump track. And if you guys don't think you can get a workout in at the pump track, you're not trying hard enough, even if you have a dirt jumper. But it was just cold outside. We ended up going to the skate park and checking that out, which is really cool. If you guys ever get a chance to check out the Parasol skate park, like, it was really cool, very active, even though the weather was bad. Like, there was like a couple of BMXers out there, a bunch of kids on their scooters, a bunch of skateboarders, and not to mention the park itself is really, really nice, and it's right next to the skate park. So it was really cool. And just as me and Eric were kind of getting a feel for the skate park there, he was trying to bunny hop up one of those curbs and pinch flatted his tire. I got to reach out to him, see what he ended up doing with that. So his day kind of ended early, which is fine. It was like 4:30, and really time to close out the day. But today I'm going to go back out to McAllister Park, I think, and get a little workout in out there on the dirt jump. And then tomorrow, I think me and my friend Graham, I think we're going to go to Reveille, do some riding out there. Which if you guys haven't gone to Reveille Peak to ride, man, you have no idea what you're missing out on. But I came up with this little list of reasons why you want or need a dirt jumper if you have access to a pump track, right? Because it's not going to take place of your trail bike, like, by no means. Even at McAllister Park, like, yeah, you can probably take this thing out, soften the fork up, and find a taller seat, I guess. I don't know. Whenever it comes to dirt jumpers, you don't really want a tall seat, and there's no place to put like a dropper seat post. So it's not going to take part. It's not going to take place, right? Like, it's one of those bikes that you want to have in your quiver, right? And if I've realized anything throughout these past couple of years of really getting into biking or mountain biking in general is like there really isn't a one trick, like a one, what they call it, like a quiver killer, right? Like a one bike does it all, because there's just so many different disciplines for riding and different terrains and different ways to ride the bike or how you want to ride, or disciplines is the good word, discipline, because you know I have a Santa Cruz Bronson, right? And that's pretty much a do-it-all bike. Like, it's going to do it all, and it's going to do it all really well. There's going to be some things that it thrives at really, really well, and there's going to be some things that it does okay, but it's probably not going to be the fastest bike at doing it, right? It's really right in the middle, and it's not going to ever take place of a dirt jumper for sure, ever. Like if you're trying to race XC on flat XC type terrain, like what Mac is, like my Bronson is going to do it, and it's going to do it pretty quick. It's going to be pretty efficient at it. But if you're on a shorter travel 29er, right? Like, let's say you're on a 115 or a 100 millimeter travel in the rear, and then like another 120 in the front with 2.0 or 2.35 wide tires. They're going to be trail light casing. Your weight's going to be more forward. Like the bike's going to be more disciplined to putting in the miles as quickly as possible and being more nimble, right? As to where my Bronson is 150 travel in the rear, 160 travel in the front, and yeah, it pedals pretty damn good, but it's not going to be any, and it's got bigger tires. I think is another thing that's going to be tough, right? Like the thing sits on 2.5 front and rear tires, and then they're really big, knobby, grippy tires, and they're really not needed there. You could get away with an XC tire for most of what you're going to run into anyways at McAllister Park. But what I'm getting at, right, is like there's different disciplines for different kinds of riding and what you're doing, right? So you're going to want the bike that best suits that discipline. So whenever it comes to having access to a pump track, yes, your full suspension bike will get you there. Yes, your hardtailed 27.5 or 29er, it'll do all of the things. But I tell you what, when you hop on a dirt jumper, and I got several people that I've loaned my dirt jumper to, like, you get it. You absolutely get it whenever you hop on a dirt jumper and you go around the pump track. Like, it's just way more efficient. It's lighter. It's more fun. You can go around the loop more than once without just being absolutely dead, out of breath, legs tight like they're going to freaking fall, and you're gonna have jelly legs. Like, that is just the right horse for the terrain, right? The right bike, the right arrow for what you're shooting for. You know what I'm saying? So I came up with these reasons, or whys you want to have or need a dirt jumper if you have access to a pump track. So keep that in mind whenever I'm going through these. So the first one that I wrote down here was it helps teaches you the pumping techniques when going over the rollers, or to maintain or pick up speed, right? So once you get used to the timing of the rollers, right? Like, now you can start slowing down and almost being at a stop, and then learn how to pump into those rollers and create your own speed. And that transfers over to the trail. So whenever you see a roller or you see a dip in the terrain, that means that you can push down and pump that as a roller and get speed without having to put these pedal cranks in, so that you can help maintain or pick up speed. So it's going to help you on the trails. The abilities, or I'm sorry, the things that you learn on the pump track are going to directly go right over to the trail for riding, right? Number two, turning and leaning in and out of berms or turns. Either one, right? Because, for example, you create this speed and you want to hold this speed through all lines of the trail, really, especially if you're into any kind of racing or trying to carry your speed to hit a jump that comes out of a berm, or feeling just the lean into the turn. Like they're just more fun whenever you get good at hitting berms and turns, right? And the dirt jumper is going to help you improve in those skills because you're going to get more comfortable and you'll be able to do more reps at a pump track because you don't have to go to the top of these hills to hit these 3 or 4 berms every time you want to practice your berms. Rather, on a pump track, you just rest up for a little bit and you can get right back into it. And it's going to help teach you how to lean the bike over. It's going to help teach you how to carry speed through those berms without brake checking. And that's going to obviously, again, directly roll over into the skills that you're going to need to do better out on the trails. So number 3, manualing rollers, or just generally manualing. Like the bike's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit more nimble. So you're going to be able to learn these attributes a lot faster and a lot easier with less effort and less risk, right? Because sometimes you can get stuck, trying to learn how to do a manual, and you maybe don't kick out in time, and you land out on your butt. I don't know. I just feel like learning to do these things is going to be easier on a dirt jumper, and you're going to learn them faster at a pump track, especially like manualing over rollers or trying to carry that speed with a manual, or just looking cool because you can do it. Number 4, just being more comfortable with steeper, lippy jumps, right? So when you're at a skate park or a dirt jumps or at a pump track, anything that you usually, just about anything that you jump off of, unless you're trying to gap some rollers or double some rollers or something like that, you're going to face the top of a really steep lip that comes out of a berm or a bowl. And I think that whenever you get used to the speed and trying to table some of these gaps that they have at these pump tracks, it just helps you deal with the energy that you need to, the speed and the energy that you need to create to come off of the tops of these lips. Because a lot of them, they go down into the bottom of the bowl after a roller, and then you come back up, and the face of that jump a lot of times is either eye level or a slightly taller than as you're coming up to the lip. So it kind of gets you used to looking at a steep lip and knowing what to do with that energy once you're at the top of the top or the crest of the jump. Also is going to help you know what it's like to be thrown up in the air and then nose back down into a transition. So I think that's definitely, if you're scared of steeper jumps whenever it comes to mountain biking, like that's going to help a lot, because not all jumps are created the same, as we all know, right? There's obvious mountain bike jumps, and then there's like these lippier jumps that are more like a BMX or dirt jump style jumps, but you find them a lot on mountain bike trails too. So you'll be able to know what to do whenever you come up to something like that. Where was I at? Manual through rollers, comfortable with lippy jumps. It's just having number 5, just like it's more fun and less effort than having your full suspension bike at a pump track or a skate park or the dirt jumps. Yeah, your hardtail, 27.5 plus will probably do it. And yeah, your full suspension will do it, but it's going to take much more effort. And with these, you just learn so much more, and it becomes so much more fun if you have a dirt jumper to hit these pump tracks with. Number 6, and I think this is probably my favorite one, or the reason, the biggest reason why I think if you like mountain biking, why you need a dirt jumper, right? Because in South Texas, we don't get a lot of rain. But this year we did. We got a lot of rain, which meant that the trails throughout the summer there would be, quite a few days in between whenever it would rain before you could get back out on a ride, right? So, in the summer, it's not such a big deal because it's so hot here. If it rains a little bit in the morning, usually by later in the afternoon, especially like 8, 9 o'clock, you can probably get on the road or get back on the trails depending on what the weather's like. But there are some days, weeks, that we had so much rain that you literally, or there would be multiple days in a row that you would have rain. And, not everybody has the same days off as the rain comes. So you might go several weeks before you get a chance to ride your bike, especially this past summer because of how wet it was. So if you were to at least have a dirt jumper, you wouldn't be stuck just riding your mountain bike on these flat, not very fun paved trails or paved greenways that we have, which are really nice. I'm super happy that we have them here in San Antonio, Texas. But if you're a mountain bike rider, you really want to be on the dirt more than you want to be on the pavement. Well, at least having a dirt jumper and being able just to wait until the pavement dries, you can still advance in these skills with the pumping and the rollers and the manuals and the jumps and things like that, as opposed to just not having one and just doing the best you can on your on whatever bike you have at the pump track. So yeah, on the rainy, crappy days, all you gotta do is wait for it to dry up, and you can hit the pump track. I think that's a good reason to have a dirt jumper. What else? I think they're low maintenance. They're real low maintenance, these bikes, right? There's not a rear cassette. They're 90% of them are single speeds. So there's no need to have a rear derailleur or a shifter. You only have one brake, and that's usually in the rear. I mean, if you get good enough and you want to do those tricks with the front brake, like, so be it. I have a spot on my front rim to have a rotor, so I mean it can be done, but just adds weight to the bike that you don't need, and you just don't really need it. They're just really low maintenance bikes. There's nothing to really do to them. Lube the chain. That's about it. I think that these bikes also might be a little bit easier to learn tricks on versus any other bike because they're lighter. They're just more mobile, and that's what they're built for. They're built for doing tricks and jumps and whips and stoppies, and like the bike's made to take this kind of abuse. Same as your mountain bike is. You know what I mean? It's there to take some of that kind of abuse, but I think you're going to advance faster and learn things on this kind of a bike rather than having to ride every hill and every jump over and over again, that you can do the same thing on a circle pump track. And last but not least, you just simply look cooler whenever you pull up on your dirt jumper to a pump track, a skate park, or the dirt jumps. You just simply look cooler. Anyways, that's what I have to say about that. I'm super stoked to have this bike, and to have a dirt jumper, just in general. So, moving along here, I started out today, getting back, trying to get my health back in check, right? Since I've been here, I've gained some weight. Also, I can count on one hand the amount of times that I went to the gym or did a home workout that didn't have to do with bike riding. And I've definitely suffered from it. And I think it's taken a little bit of time because, I basically retired from playing a high level of playing paintball, and I got into mountain biking, and it's great, right? Like there's mountain biking helps keep you in shape for sure. 100% like helps keep you in shape. And if you're eating the right things and you're putting a workout in here or there, throughout the week, and you're riding your bike, like there's no excuse why you shouldn't stay in shape and be losing weight, right? Well, I just simply haven't been doing those, and I've just been riding my bike, but I've been drinking lots of beer after some of the rides. I've expelled all my energy, so I'm just like eating everything in sight, like I'm overeating. Anyways, what I'm getting at is that a couple months ago, I did my first enduro race, and I wasn't in very good shape. I'm still not in very good shape, but what it has done is it has given me the drive to want to better myself, because I've been lucky most of my life. I've been an athlete. I've been a competitive athlete, and for the first couple of riding years here, I just haven't had anything to compete with other than learning how to ride the bike well, right? And having fun and drinking beers afterwards. And I've really grown accustomed to that. But with that being said, that's all I've been doing to keep in shape. And since this enduro racing thing has kind of entered my life, it's given me like this new reason to want to get back into better shape so that I compete. And it's not so much, I'm not competing for a team, you're just competing for yourself. But I can see the drive of wanting to compete with the team, or even wanting to be on the podium. So there's a new enduro race series coming up. It's the Southern Enduro Tour. The first one's going to be at Comfort, Texas, at the Flat Rock Ranch, which is one of my favorite places to ride whenever you can ride there. They're currently off season for hunting or something like that. But the first leg of the series is there in basically a month from now. So, oh man, it's the 20th today. So I would like to be 20 pounds lighter in about 20 days. But that's probably not going to happen. But I'm going to try to get there as quick as I can, because the next race is actually on the 17th, I believe. And I started today, trying to get my health in line, because I want to compete and I want to be competitive, right? Yes, I can compete at my current size and my current weight and my current physique, but I don't want to. I want to be better, because that's just who I am. And now I have this drive of competing in a race to do it at. So I'm really stoked. So today I got up early. I would have liked to get up a little bit earlier than I did, but nonetheless, I got up early, got outside, got a walk in, came in, got my coffee, made a good breakfast, and to start the day, I've had a really good, healthy lunch, just some rice and some beef, and some chicken, and I feel really good right now. Starting to take my supplements again. I already feel like this burst of energy of something I got to do with. So as soon as I'm done creating this podcast and getting it uploaded, I'm getting right to the pump track, or right to the trails, or something. I don't know. I'm doing something. But I just have this newfound like reason to get my diet back in check, and to get lose some weight, get healthier, and work on my stamina, and something more than just riding bikes, which is great. But like I said, if I'm not putting it together with diet and exercise, like it's just not going to be as good. The next thing on my list that I wanted to visit with you guys about, let me see how much time I got. I'm trying to keep these things down to around an hour, because I don't know how long these things are supposed to last. But if it's just me by myself and I'm just rambling, because Rudy rambles about these things, I don't know how long I can keep your attention for. So I'm trying to keep these things to around an hour, unless I just, some subjects you get onto and you just talk and talk and talk, and you have all this enthusiasm to talk about them for. We're only about a half hour in, by the way. So the next thing I wanted to visit with you guys about is night riding. The days are short and the nights are really long. You know what I mean? So a lot of us, get off work at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and a lot of us go into work at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, some 6, I'm sure. And you just have these really long days that you barely get to see any sun, and you don't have to have time to ride, unless you're going to go night riding. And in order to do that, you have to have some really good lights. Recently went out with a night ride with a friend of mine that did not have good lights, and he couldn't keep up because of the physical aspect of the ride. The guy couldn't see. I mean, plain and simple, he just couldn't see. And he had lights. He just didn't have adequate lights. Excuse me, I'll take a drink here. I don't know why, but it seems like my voice gets, excuse me, gets really hoarse. And I can hear it changing in the headphones. Anyway, so night riding. So you need to have good lights. You do, because yeah, any lights are going to work, but if I'm not going the speed that I want to go, I'm not having fun. And then I'm just pedaling to pedal. Like, that just doesn't seem like fun or worth the extra effort it takes to go night riding, right? Because to go night riding, you have to take a lot of things in consideration besides just having a good set of lights, right? Like, it's cooler outside, so you gotta keep in mind that you might want to layer up. Maybe have a couple of different, a cotton shirt on, maybe like a long sleeve, dry fit material, jersey material, maybe. Me personally, I want to have long sleeves on whenever I ride, because let me warn you guys about the damn spiders at frickin' McAllister Park. Like, I like riding there. I know the trail that I like to ride, so I can put in a good 11 miles, 10 and a half, 11 miles. But whenever you get out there and you start getting into the later hours, that 7 or 8 o'clock area, like these really big, massive barn spiders that aren't there to be aggressive, but they have these big freaking webs that they stretch their web across the trail, the single track part of the trail. And so they can catch bugs and eat at night or whatever, but I want to have long sleeves on because I don't know, it just makes me feel better whenever I don't actually feel the webs that I run through or the webs that I can't see. Most of the time, having these really good lights has saved me. Like, I've come up to areas in the trail where there's obviously this big freaking spider and spider web, and you're able to duck out of the way or go around it rather than through it. And you definitely want to have good lights at McAllister Park. But you have to take in consideration the time that you go, when you're going to get done, what you're going to do afterwards. You probably want to make sure that you ride with at least one other person. I certainly don't have the same amount of fun going by myself on any bike ride as I do without at least having one friend along. And being at night is a little sketchy by yourself, even if you know the trails really well. There's even been some times where I get a little ahead of everybody else in the group or the person I'm riding with, and even I feel a little sketched out. So I slow down, or if somebody gets ahead of me a ways, I'll speed up just to make sure that I'm with the pack. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But back to the lights real quick. So I run this. This is a badass light. It's called Nightcore. You can check it out at www.nightcore, nitecore.com. Nightcore. This is the BR35, and you need to have one light on your handlebar and one light on your helmet attached some way. That's going to give you like the best viewings, right? So this Nightcore, the BR35, it's got 4 settings for lamp. So, it tops out at like 1800 lumens. But whenever I first got this light, I wasn't sure of the battery life, so I just used it on the number 1 setting, which is more than enough. With both lights. So it's got a beam light that goes out a little ahead of you, and then it's got this bottom light that points down, like basically right in front of your tire, which is really good. So you get this really wide range of spectrum of a light. And then it's got these 4 settings, and then on top it tells you how much battery you have left, not by bars It does do it by bars, but it also does it by time. So at setting 1, I have like 7 hours of runtime, and then just recently I used it on a ride. And I used it on setting 3. Has one more setting, and even on that setting, we went out for a 2-hour ride, and whenever I got done, I still had an hour of battery life. So even at setting 4, which I think is overkill, because setting 1's good enough, and setting 2 is probably where I'll just ride this thing like no matter what, just to make sure I can run it without having to charge it, 2 or 3 times, or having to charge it every time, knowing that I'm going to go on a 2.5-hour bike ride. Like, I can probably use it on the number 2 setting for like 3 bike rides and not have to worry about charging it. Not to mention, it's got a timer on there that tells you how much time you have left on the charge, depending on what setting you use. The other cool thing is that you don't always have to use both of these lights. You can use the top, or you can use both, or just the bottom light. So that's going to save you battery life too. And I put that one on my handlebar, and I absolutely love it. A friend of mine, the way that I found this is because a friend of mine had this same one. I was like, oh, and I was able to use it. We're kind of in a dusk situation where it was kind of getting darker, but probably would have been fine. But he had both of his lights, so he gave me the handlebar light, and he used his helmet light. So that's how I found that light. Now, this other light that I have is the Knightrider 900 lumen boost, and I think it puts out like 1200, which is again more than you need, because again, my first ride with this light, I just used the number 1 setting, and we were out for a 2.5-hour bike ride and still had plenty of light, but our battery, I think, because I used it I used it like a week later for another bike ride that was only about an hour. It still didn't run out of battery, but I don't know exactly how long this thing will go. But I did recently just use this in its number 3 setting, along with the nightcore in its number 3 setting, and it went the full 2.5 hours and was doing fine. But honestly, I would probably I would never go on a bike ride with it on the 3rd setting, because the number 1 setting is really, really good. It's all that you need and more. Yeah, things could be a little bit brighter. You could bump it up to the number 2, but the number 3 is almost an overkill. Like, it just doesn't make sense to have the trail that bright. And I put that one on my helmet. That's my helmet mounted light, and it works great. And the reason that you want to have 2 lights is because the one that's on your bar is obviously going to stay in front of your handlebars. It's going to look directly in front of you no matter where you're going. But the one that's attached to your helmet, if you're a good enough bike rider that you look far enough ahead of you or around turns and corners, that's what the light on top is going to do, is going to give you the benefit of looking far ahead, and that way you can make changes to the trails, or as they come to you, you can see them, rather than going around a turn and not being able to finish that turn, or waiting for your handlebars to come back around so you can see up the trail. So you'll get it whenever you get a couple of different lights. You'll understand. But take it from me, if you want to ride as fast as you do during the day, at night, get yourself 2 good lights, 1 for your handlebar and 1 for your helmet, and you will have a blast riding. Just as much fun, I think, as riding at night as during the day. Moving on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about was Pink Bike's field test. I don't know. Do you guys watch this? Like, they do. I would love nothing more than to be a part of Pink Bike's field test. I would love. And I think, that's whenever I was flipping these bikes, I was buying like these $2,000, $2,500 bikes, and then basically running them, doing like a review on them, and then flipping that bike, taking the money, getting a more expensive bike or a different bike. And I did that with the Giant Trance, and I did it with the Stump Jumper, and I took the money that I got from both of them, and I got this Norco now, because I just, I just really like riding different bikes. I like knowing how they feel on a trail. I also like the feeling the difference in the suspension components. Both of my bikes have really good suspension components. Now, whenever you go from a really nice, expensive top end suspension component and you go down to a lesser of a grade, like, you know immediately like what that component is missing and why you paid the extra money for the better component. Now, there are some components out there that are going to be, what do you say, like on the edge, right? Like, for example, the Marzocchi Bomber Z1 or Z2. Like, if you're looking at the Z1, like, that's basically a Fox 36 with a grip damper. Not a grip tube, but a grip damper. Like, that's basically the same fork, but it's going to be about $250 cheaper than buying the Fox one, and probably the same if you're looking to buying like a Lyric or something like that. The Marzocchi Z2 Bomber, is basically like a Pike or a Fox 34, but it's got the same grip damper in there, and it's like that particular fork is like really threads the line, or really makes the line gray whenever you're trying to buy a really nice component but stay budget friendly, right? I would not be afraid to run that fork as a full-time enduro fork or trail bike fork for sure. Of course, they don't make anything in a 38 like the Zeb or the Fox 38 stanchions, but if they did, like, I would not shy away from that brand. Now, you look at some of the lower component, like RockShox, let's say the Recon or the Rebe or Evolution or something like that. Like, the price difference isn't the same, but they come on these cheaper bikes, and you can feel the difference in those components, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Going for something higher end to something lower end on the same build of bike, even, you know what I mean? So if you get like that Stump Jumper was just a base model, but if you get the very next one up, like, the components on that bike is like so much better. You like feel the difference instantly. Anyways, so off subject again because I'm just rambling. Back to the pink bike field test, right? What I really like about this is, like, I think about like what would be out of these field test bikes that they have, what would be the best bike for South Texas, for my area of riding and the kind of riding that I like to do. And so far, the favorite bike that they've reviewed or talked about was the 4060 Score. It's a sister company of BMC, and they've been making bikes for a long time. Take a drink here. I can feel my voice getting raspy. Excuse me. I think so far, from what I've watched anyways, I think this 4060 Score would be like the probably the best South Texas bike, and I think you could probably do a bit of these enduro races with this bike. Now, I would consider it a true trail bike because the bike that they tested it with was with the Lyric. So with the Lyric, for sure, you could do some of these enduro races here in South Texas, but it comes with a Pike, and I think that bike would probably be like a really, really good, like, all-around trail bike for anything that you could put in front of it here in Texas. It's a 29er. What is it, like 140 rear, 150 front, I think. But what they were talking about this bike, like, I feel like this bike would be the best bike for South Texas. The only thing that they had to say really bad about it was that it had this compartment in between the shock and the back of the rear triangle that just holds mud. And in South Texas, like, you're never going to ride in those conditions, like, basically ever. And if you do, it might be once in 4 years of riding a bike or something like that, that you would run into enough downhill run that you would actually collect mud and have to worry about that. Otherwise, we're always in dry and dusty conditions, and I just think that this bike would be a really cool bike. I would love to get my hands on this bike and do like my own field test here in South Texas, like I did with the other bikes that I've kind of ran through here in the area. That would be like a dream job. I guess that's kind of what I'm doing here. What I'm trying to do between my YouTube channel and trying to get this podcast going, is like I don't want to work the average job. I want to do something that I want to do, and I want to ride bikes. I want to review bikes. I want to talk about bikes. I enjoy doing videos. Really, this, I know it's new, but this whole podcast thing just seems like a blast. I can't wait to have somebody that wants to actually come on my show and like do an interview, or, just visit with them about something, in general, something bike related, of course, on the channel, because that's just what I want to do. I don't want to live my life doing what I used to do. I did it for long enough, and it's not fun to me. It's not living, and doing something like this that I love and I want to do, and making something of it, that's what I want to do. So if you want to love and support and help me out, help a brother out here, if you're listening to me on YouTube, don't forget to leave me a comment about what we were talking about today and what you think about it, and give me a thumbs up, hit that bell notification so whenever these things are coming out, or whenever I come out with a video. I think the next step is, in order to try to get myself some help, is, try to start coming out with maybe some merchandise, maybe start myself a little Patreon, try to get a little bit of an income, because ultimately, like, I love doing it, but what would be even better is if I could afford to have these bikes and flip these bikes and have everything paid for through the YouTube and the merchandise and podcasts and things like that. Like, that would just be the ultimate goal, I guess. And that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm at. That's where I want to be with this thing. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I kind of, again, just get on these rambling fits about certain things and just kind of roll with it. But if you guys have listened this long, I really, really do appreciate it. Again, I will try to be coming out with a new podcast every Monday and possibly every Friday. So you guys can listen to me and get to know me a little bit more. And yeah, hit me up on my Instagram. It's MTB&RUDY. Let me know if you want to go for a ride. Let me know if you want to be a guest on my show, if you want to hang out and talk sometime. I'd like to schedule that out with somebody and see if I can get a regular on the show that we can coordinate, because I think these things work a little bit better if you just have a little bit of a back and forth, or maybe somebody to do my my video editing. If you're into video editing, give me a call so I can sit down and throw some ideas off you. But thanks again for listening to the Rudy Rambles podcast. Peace out. Go ride your bike.